Welcome to Pivot with Dr. Malaika. I'm your host, and I am so excited for this show, especially this show in particular. I'm so excited that I have Stubbs here, and she is the writer and director of the stage play godSis. Listen, I've known this woman for a long time, and I am delighted to have her here with some of her cast members to share with us about this upcoming stage play that is a hit already. Okay, so I want you, Pivot family, to welcome Nay, and we're just going to have some girlfriend conversation right now. We'll bring in some of the cast in a few, but I'm just looking forward to having this conversation and sharing with you about this wonderful creative play, the creative behind it, the vision, and just what it takes to produce something so fantastic. So, Nay, welcome to Pivot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Pivot family. Um, but I am producing, directing, writing, these things I don't believe I was doing there. I think I was writing a bit.
Okay.
Um, I am developing arts programming for students and now adults. So I'm doing a lot within the arts world to develop more impact arts material.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, what it is that we're doing is a show called godSis, the stage play.
Yes.
And it is the second installment of the Permission to Feel and Heal series that we are developing. The first installment was called God Guys,
Mm-hmm.
in which I was fortunate enough to be asked by my co-producer, C. Nathaniel Brown, who's from Atlanta, or he lives in Atlanta, I should say. And it was a show that was centered on African American male mental health or mental wellness. And
Mm-hmm.
so now, on the flip side, we're dealing with the African American women and their mental wellness.
Okay. And so talk a little bit about that. That's a big topic here in 2024. And having worked in higher education, I just can remember even students, right, who, particularly women, but having to deal with their mental health, the source of mental health, how to address it, even talking about it, and feeling safe in being able to share about their
Hmm.
mental health. So,
Hmm.
um, can you talk a little bit about how the play, without we know you're not going to give it away, but how does the play address that and help with the healing process for the audience who will
Right.
be in attendance?
Right. Well, the tagline of the show is Black women owning permission to feel, heal, and support each other.
Mm,
Um, it does deal with, the overall umbrella is mental health or mental wellness. But just as you stated, we deal more with the source of, their state of mind or their state of being, and
yes.
how those things, the source at times being traumatic sources,
Mhm.
unfortunately,
Mm,
and the dealing with them or the lack thereof,
yeah.
and how that shapes us and develops our identity as women, period. But specifically, our goal was to deal with the Black woman because our community doesn't embrace therapy. They
Right.
don't embrace the healing of these things that are so taboo to talk about, that they can't come to the forefront for us to deal with. And so
Mhm.
we deal with it from that level, dealing with the issues, dealing with some specifics that are, or should I say, some things that are specific to African American women. Some
Yeah.
things that we feel like, okay, we need to lay these here on the table, on the stage for you to see them, because
Yeah.
we've been talking about them for so long that now, okay, we need a tangible. We're going to materialize these things and put them, you know what I'm saying, in your face. Sometimes it's a little easier to swallow a hard pill when you put a little sugar in it. So for me, adding the arts is sugar
Right.
to certain topics and certain items that we want to impact the world with. Right now, our goal is to, with these particular shows, is to impact the African American community in such a way that we paint this picture that we just believe you're going to want to see. But now we got you. Now listen, we're in your face. This is what we need to talk about. This is family. Like God guys was in the kitchen. There's some conversation that go on in a black family's kitchen,
That's right.
that are very impactful. And then so the same is such with a bedroom. These girls are in a bedroom. And so it's in a relative place to us. It's very relative topics that we don't want to talk about. And the faces, are pretty relative as well. So
Mhm.
that's how we are attacking mental health or mental wellness.
It's interesting because growing up in my house, I was raised by my paternal grandparents. So there was a generation gap there. With
Mhm.
no with and that middle generation was absent. So there wasn't a parent who I was raised with and then I could pull some wisdom. It was the constant wisdom of this. I think they were the silent generation. And so of course there's wanting to talk about things, but this generation doesn't talk about things. So,
Right,
you know,
right,
so experiencing trauma or seeing things and wanting to have those conversations, but we don't talk about those things in this house, or what
right.
happens in this house stays in here.
In this house.
And
Right,
these are the kinds of things that we've heard, some of us have heard in the Black home, right?
right.
Um,
Which
and
is
that I think
the
that
things that we
impacts
do.
the trauma. I'm sorry, I think that impacts the trauma, but go
Right,
ahead.
right. I was saying this is kind of one of the avenues that we go down in dealing with the series in general.
Mhm.
One of our goals is to, again, show this picture to younger African American males or younger African American females so that they recognize trauma at a young age to be able
Yes.
to say, that's trauma. I didn't know that was considered trauma. And we've had students
Mhm.
say that. I didn't know that me getting shot 3 times was considered trauma. And so to be able to identify it now, and when someone says, okay, let's talk about trauma, they have something to talk about now because they've been able to label it. And then to give them the confidence and the safe space to feel like, oh, we can talk about these things.
Right.
Because in my house, as you said, we couldn't talk about it, or in my grandma's house, we couldn't talk about it. Another reason why we've added in the show, there is a younger version that tells the story in the vignettes of these women, for them to see, oh, if I had only had the wisdom or the help or the support of these Black women or other Black women,
Mhm.
or the strength and communication of the Black family in my home when these traumatic things were going on, I could have turned out differently than I am now as this adult dealing with these issues that I
Right.
was never able to or equipped to deal with at my younger ages. So,
Yes.
we're trying to capture all of those generations. You know what I'm saying? Or should I say, give voice to each of those generations? Be it that, hey, I want to know now so that I don't lose out, later, or the voice to the older generations saying, I wish I would have talked more then. So now let's change this and talk more now. We paint this as, or should I say, we do coin this as a communicative piece, so
Yes.
that we're not saying nope, we have all of the answers. There can be some answers here, but this is for you to take away and unpack and talk about it. You know what I mean? When you get to your family or your therapist or whomever else that's going to support you in these things.
Right. So what has been what has been fun about this play? What has been feeding you as you are working with some phenomenal people um, because I'm sure each play is different. It takes on a different spirit.
Mhm. Mhm.
Personalities are different. So, what's been fun for you?
Fun for me is always seeing it, of course, come to fruition. Being able to see and hear the characters finally, your read throughs. You finally get to put a real face to the character. You finally get to put a true attitude or a true voice to it. And just seeing the team come together. It's funny you should use the term fun because we're a bunch of clowns. We're about our business, but there's always some type of laughter, you know what I mean, going on because I don't believe in creating without it.
Hmm.
It's definitely a necessity, especially for the hard topics that we try to deal with and
Yes.
shed light on. We can't do it without, the element of fun.
Right.
It would kill us at the end of the day. But just the overall coming together, the filming for certain portions of it. Um, that's pretty much it. Once we come together, no matter what part we're developing at the time, being together and creating it is the funnest portion for me.
Great. I love that. And you're sharing some pieces on Facebook, so we get to see a little bit of the behind the scenes. So I feel comfortable
Mhm.
in sharing because it's out there.
Absolutely.
But I see your daughter? Okay. All right. I'm just saying what I love about that, and you can talk. I want to give you an opportunity to share, but why I think that is so phenomenal is it's the passing down from one generation to another, not just the creative side, because it's probably in her already. What I believe though is this kind of message, this kind of play, recognizing that you're sharing the story about trauma or the fact that we can talk, right? And I am collaboratively creating a production like this. So I want you to know we can talk. And I just love that. And I love the
Yeah.
idea that passing this thing down from you to your daughter is just a beautiful thing to see. Um, when I scroll through, I'm like, uh-oh, what are we going to expect
Mhm.
today? Okay. So how has that
Mhm.
been? How has that been for you?
It's that's and I'm sorry I kind of broke out in a chuckle in a weird place because in you saying that, I don't think I've ever really taken all of that into account
Mm,
when dealing with her and dealing with or allowing her to come to rehearsals or certain filmings or just while I'm developing, she's pretty much always there. And I remember having a conversation and it was very candid and she probably had to be 8 or 9 and it was a very candid conversation. And I said, "Lyric, how do you know that? Like we haven't talked about it. I know kids talk and I can't remember the topic, but I know kids talk." And she said, "Well, mom, I go to every No More Project rehearsal."
right.
And the No More Project for us was sex, drugs,
Right.
violence,
I remember.
yeah. And I'm like, oh, stupid me. You are around this all
Yes.
of the time.
It's
You're around the hard
planted.
talk.
Yep.
Mhm. You're around the hard talks all the time. And so it's always been easy for us to talk, but again, I've never pinpointed or used what I do as an example, but somehow, some way, she'll pull it out and, say something about what she's seen at a rehearsal or what she's read in a script or what she's viewed in some of the footage that I'm doing. So, it's helping what I do.
Mhm.
Thank God is helping me to raise her
Mhm. Mhm.
at the end of the day. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And from a more creative standpoint, which, does make it a little easier that I don't have to stand over you and point the finger or shake the ruler and say this is what it's going to be, but she generally picks it up from something creative that we've done for some of the harder things, which is a help.
You know what? I this her creative acumen will be off the charts. What
I believe that it already is.
Yeah, what God already put in her then you watering that, and then her being in the environment, it's just, listen, it's going to be a second
Yeah.
generation for sure. So
Yeah, for sure.
that's awesome. All right, so we are back with the cast and the writer, director, and supporting folks of this production of godSis, the stage play. I'm so delighted. We've talked a little bit about the show and productivity and creativity, and now we've got our cast. We've got folks here who can give us some behind the scenes of what's happening and their role in the play. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Why don't we start with Carla?
All right. Thank you for having us on, first of all. My name is Carla C. Payne, and I play Maxine. And Maxine is a professional singer who loves the girls very much, the ladies that come together, and she has a secret that she thinks she has about what's going on in her life that the ladies are privy to. So she comes out with that during the show.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Crystal Bates, and I play Mama D. And I'm a college professor who takes one girl, probably from each year, under her wing that she sees a need and that she feels she can help impart something into their lives. The one thing that is funny that I find exciting today, I was looking through the script and I was reading through some of the things. And there's Carla over there, who I know professionally and as a friend. I respect her tremendously. Her character is Maxine. And today, when I was going over some of the words that I would speak to Maxine, I would speak those words to Carla. I absolutely would say those. And today, I was thinking about this play, and I said, we're going to do more than entertain, and we're going to do more than educate. And we're going to do more than encourage. I think we're going to empower. I think the play will empower. And one of the reasons is because we all in the Black community, in the community that I was raised by some fabulous women. But one thing they did say that everything happened in isolation. And if we didn't talk about it, well, it didn't happen.
Right.
But it does happen. And I think being able to talk about it in a public way without you having to feel the emotion from the first perspective, I think that will be very, very empowering for women.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you. And now we have Light, the Flow Minister, who is going to share her role and her contributions to this production.
I was voluntold. No, I'm just kidding.
I love it. Keep it real, just keep it real, sis. Keep it real.
I am so blessed to be a part of the theme song for the play. You've probably heard snippets of it. It sounds so beautiful. Look, I haven't even heard it all like I want to hear it. I'm so excited. The voices, the women behind those voices are great friends of mine, and they are amazing, man. It sounds great. And I'm going to bring the element of, I guess, hip hop in and just sprinkle a little bit of that in there. That's what I do. I am a national recording artist, and I have toured the world. I love what I do, and I really just help other people articulate their stories and their lives. And I love doing it. I'm a poet. I'm a wordsmith. My mother was an English major, so we wasn't allowed to go around the house, and we weren't allowed to do that. So, when we got with our friends, we was like, what? But never at home. We had to be articulate, and we had to be able to speak with the best of them on any level. And again, it's my personal canvas, words,
Yes.
and being able to paint a picture where other people have told me so many times I've told their story and they remain silent just because they could not find the strength or the words. So
Yeah.
that's where I come in.
That's beautiful. I love it. Like, you'll like this. My grandmother I used to go down to my mother's mother, my other grandmother, and play with my friends. And then I would
Mhm.
come back home. And my grandmother would say, "Don't bring that it they out they stuff up in here. You better talk like you." I'm like, "What is it they out they?" Like,
You better talk.
so when as you all are working together, and we have not talked, so I don't know how many times you've been together as far as, but as you're reading the script and as you are thinking about your own characters or your role, even with the music, what has impacted you the most about your character? I'll start with, let me start with Carla.
Okay. As I was reading through, I've been doing theater on a professional level for 30 years.
Okay.
And every time I take a role, I find, like, what are the things that I have in common with this woman or with this person?
Mm-hmm.
And so for Maxine, I was reading it, and I, like, every time I read it, I'm moved to tears because I've had some of these experiences, not in the exact same way, but I've encountered these moments that
Yes.
Maxine is going to share with everyone. And so Maxine is not only going to minister to others, but she ministers to me as I'm able to
Yeah.
release some of those things as well.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, it's very dynamic. And I love how when each woman shares her story,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of us encircle her. And
Mm.
we're like, we're her amen corner in that moment. Like, no, I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna show my love this way, like,
Right.
and then you have the ones that come over and rub your back. Like, we surround each other with support.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. How about you, Crystal? How has your role impacted you as you are preparing and reading through?
Well, as I told Nay when I first read it, that every story in here either has happened to me or a loved one or someone in my inner circle. I
Mm.
mean, there's not one that um, hasn't impacted my life through someone else that I know. One of the other things I think that impacts me is the conditions and the change. And I guess what I mean by that is that some things aren't going to change unless you change them.
Mm.
The conditions are going to be the same conditions for women from the 50s, for women from the 70s, and women from 2024. There are going to be these things, but how we change is how we talk about them and how we look at them. A
Right.
lot of these stories and a lot of these women would be looked upon and shamed. Now, remember, these are educated women, these are college graduates,
Right.
and yet they are impacted by trauma that they didn't know how to change.
Wow.
The conditions for somebody, as we talked and alluded to earlier,
Mm.
that my grandmother's generation didn't talk about it at all.
Right.
So it didn't happen.
Right.
Then 30 years later, you found out it was happening then. And then my mother's generation talked about it a little bit, but
Right.
in code.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
So
come on.
it
Mm.
happened, but it was in code. So you have to wait years before you can decipher it. And now
Mm-hmm.
you've been conditioned as a woman not to talk about it, and
Mm-hmm.
you find it hard to form those words. And they has formed them for many women,
Yeah.
and so that will make the conditions that won't change still bring change in how we handle it.
Right.
That's what it is. All these women, that's running through every gender, because all these women are not the same age. They didn't graduate from the same class.
Mm-mm.
So we're talking about different women from different decades that she has taken under her wing. Some are younger, some are older. But the conditions in which they, whether it's a graduate, a doctor or a singer, they're dealing with trauma. And now we're giving a voice to it and say it's okay. You can make it. You can survive it. You can be better. And I think that's what has impacted me about the character in general. She's went through her own trauma in her life, and somewhere she's overcome to a point where she's mentally healthy. And now we have to get everybody on the same page, and whatever it takes, we're willing to do. So it's impacted me in a number of ways. Like I said, I know ladies in my circle, every one of these stories that from real people have impacted my life.
Right.
Yeah.
That I find, just as you were describing this, is that we throw around the term "it takes a village." Well, but it's real, and
Yes.
community is real. I don't know if you addressed this, but let's talk to someone, a woman who's watching. How do we stop the trauma pattern? How do we, now I'm just tapping in to you as women. How do we say enough is enough? I'm not gonna continue with this, or this is not going to continue in my family line. When we talk about the trauma, the source, the patterns that we see that repeat themselves, how do we address that? Anyone can start.
I feel like Light could address this, but I do I do want to, and I just feel like Light could address it. But I feel like most importantly, one of the reasons why I create these pieces, be it film or theater, is because I feel like one of the start of it is being willing to talk about it.
Right.
Because once we talk, I mean, we have, as an African American community, we have such a power with communication, and that's why we don't like when communication and information that would allow us to communicate is withheld from us, it cripples us.
It does.
Yes.
And we don't, and so with us not being able to talk about it or know what we're talking about, we remain crippled. So first and foremost, that the start of our healing, the start of creating the pattern or the template for getting better as a whole, I believe, is communication, being willing to say something about it. Even if we don't know what to say,
Right.
just bringing it up to say something.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I think the same. Getting the ball rolling with speaking, because we could all be going through the same thing. And my voice doesn't get louder sometimes until I hear you say, hey, I went through that too. Now I feel empowered. I feel like I have company. Somebody is with me and I'm stronger. And a lot of times, if you look at situations where there has been sexual abuse, especially in Hollywood or something like that, the first thing you hear is, oh, they're just now coming out. Well, now all these women are all of a sudden, I feel empowered because somebody else said something, and it's more of us, and together our voice is louder. It doesn't mean we just following along with each other. Well, she said it, so I'm going to say it. No, I feel like I don't have to do this alone. A concern has to be addressed. A problem needs to be solved. So it's how we deal with our own things. And then when you look, some of the trauma that we've experienced, I'm like, oh, my daughter, that's not touching mine.
Right.
That's not touching my daughter. I can say it 100 times, and that doesn't mean it's going to be true. I have to do something to stop that from touching my daughter, to stop that trauma or that experience, or from me bleeding on my daughter. And one of those things is opening up the lines of communication. My daughter probably sick of me I ask her 700 questions a day. Like, okay, you sure? And what about this? And she a whole grown married woman. But as women, we need to have a voice. We need to be comfortable with having our voice. And if I go through the fire and I'm connected to you, you shouldn't smell like smoke.
Mm.
You should not. Not if I went through the fire. Why do you have to go through the fire too? I did it already. Listen to what I'm saying. Watch what I do. Let me teach you. And that's what this play is. That's what this is. Well, I really hate to call it a play because it's so, I know that's what technically it's called. It's really not though. This is so much bigger. And the world will see it. The world will see it. It will be way beyond Pittsburgh because this is like the trampoline. And it's going to be what catapults so many women into their purpose, their destiny, their healing, not just for them, but this is like we're talking lineage. We're talking generational. People talk, I want generational wealth and generational healing. It starts with sometimes just a conversation. And this is going to do it. I think this is going to really take the door off the hinges for some women to be able to go back home and say, like you said, enough is enough. Okay, all that what happened at home stays up. We're not when it's killing the rest of the line. We're going to come home and talk about this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I really think starting the conversation.
I don't think women realize, and I don't want to shed a negative light on that silent generation, but I don't necessarily know if some of our elders in the silent generation had the opportunity to share. And so they kind of just kept packing those feelings down, packing them in. And so then we raise daughters or sons or whatever, and that stuff is still packed in, and we're doing our best to raise a different kind of, a different experience. But we haven't talked about what's packed down inside.
Right.
And so a lot of times we don't realize how deep, and it sounds like what this will do is really kind of start pulling like just a little string.
Get that root. Yeah,
and pulling some things up little by little. And even if it's just starting the process to make room for healing, to make room for closure, this sounds like when someone talked about empowerment. It's going to empower some people to go back home and have some conversations, or shut their door, turn off social media, and become one with themselves and say, enough is enough.
Right. And I also believe that we are in agreement that conversation is key for us. But if we can really just be specific to the Black woman, we can talk all day. If we can't do nothing else as a Black woman, we can talk and we can communicate. But what are we really saying? And not just saying, but to each other. And that's what's important for me with godSis. What are we saying to each other? What are we saying to the next one about the other one? Do you understand what I'm saying? So when we do come together, we can't even deal with each other because what's been said about this one to the other. So it's not just our communication. What are we doing with our communication? Our language has to be different. If we can establish a different language through this production, a language of support and not discord, we would be onto something.
Absolutely. I do that with phone calls. I started something about maybe almost 2 years ago. If you call me, it doesn't matter if you're saying it about me, that's cute. But before we get off the phone, you have to say something positive about someone. I don't even have to know them because everybody knows you can't call me and gossip. You can't call me and tear my sister down. It doesn't matter if we get along or none of that, because for one, I don't have time for it. And you got to talk to me about money, power, empower. You can't call me about foolishness, but it makes the other person think or be more conscious and more aware of their speech. Like, oh, when I call her, I already know. Okay, so tell me something. You got to give me something positive about one of your sisters, one of your girls, somebody. And it makes them cognizant of that. Like, wow, maybe I do gossip too. Maybe I talk about people in a negative light too much. And now I have friends that are doing that now.
Wow. That's powerful. So when your audience leaves this, I don't even know, I want to say empowerment session. What will they leave with? I'm going to ask each one of you. What will they leave with? One word, a phrase. What will they leave with?
Permission.
Permission. Mm.
Recognition.
Mm.
I will expand on permission because that was my word. But I was going to say the permission to have the conversations,
Mm-hmm.
or at least to start the conversations.
Okay.
Fuel.
I'll give Carla her word back, and I'll say understanding,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that I believe that some of the things that we are explaining will further help them understand themselves. Oh, that's why I do that. And help others even to understand them, because there are several people that we don't deal with or we don't like. We just don't understand them because we don't know them enough to not even like them.
Right. I have to say, I cannot wait. It is on my calendar.
Mine too.
And I feel
Carla and Crystal, you better say mine too.
I feel like though I might need to bring my gatekeeper packet. You know, we call our ushers at church our gatekeepers. Like I need my tissues.
Okay.
And I need a little side of water, maybe just to get myself together and replenish the tears that I might, because it sounds like I'm going to be.
I would also say bring a woman that you care about.
Yes.
Bring somebody with you that you care about.
Okay.
And I go back with recognition when they said that kid might got shot and they don't realize it's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we know it's so normal in our family. We don't know that it is trauma. It's just life. But life doesn't have to be packed with all that trauma. So bring somebody.
I'm going to bring some.
In particular, a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's, if I can say very quickly, it's funny she should say that. I was talking to one of the parents of one of the younger girls that plays Maxine's younger version. And she was telling her mom, I think I'm the one that's abused. I'm the one that's abused. And she's saying, no, you're not abused. She's saying, yes, I think I'm the one that's abused. But she witnesses something. That's not what she meant, but she witnesses something. And I'm like, tell her she's absolutely right. Because the fact that she witnesses something is being mentally abused. And so that goes along with, like Crystal says, it's recognition. That they're going to be able to recognize what it is and define what it is that they're seeing so they can get it right. And so when they talk about it, when they finally talk about it and we're in communication about it, we talk on what we know.
Yep.
You know, and I'm glad you said that, because when I heard the word recognition, I was thinking the first word that came to mind was, okay, they're going to feel recognized. They're going to have a voice, but I never even
that too.
Yes, but thinking on that lines of recognition and being able to recognize this is the source of something that was planted that started the abuse for me, or this seeing this or being in this environment. Woo, y'all. Okay. Y'all gonna do us like that. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So, you know what? godSis is on its way. And it's godSis exclamation point.
Exclamation point.
Here we go.
Yep.
So godSis will be at the O'Reilly Theater on Saturday, October 5th 2 p.m. There's 2 shows. But let's who said it? I don't know if it was Carla who said it. This do you think this will travel? Is this a one city thing, or is God opening doors for some? Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. All right. I'm just asking. I'm planting the seed by asking the question.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about it all. But I mean, from the time I was a kid, I've never dreamed in one location. My dream has never been for one location. And so from the time that I started getting really into theater, like heavy into theater, my vision and goal has always been, from the first piece we've done, is that it can't stay here.
Right.
Because I want to believe everybody needs what I have. I need everybody I work with to believe that. You know what I'm saying? That you all need what I have. I want to believe that what God has put in me is a necessity for all, you know, and I want you to be able to say that, you know, to me. And so I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, it will be somewhere else.
Thank you.
Where, I don't know.
That's okay.
It will.
But it won't just be here.
How about we start with everywhere?
Everywhere.
That's right. You decide that.
Yes.
You decide that.
Yes, ma'am.
It will be everywhere.
Yes, ma'am. Come on here. From one city to another.
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay.
Wherever there's women.
And we're everywhere.
There's godSis.
And there's godSis.
Doesn't
Don't you create a commercial today?
Wherever there's women.
Come on, other continents.
Listen. Come on, sponsors.
Come on, global.
Yeah. We will be in St. Martin, so I do know that already. That's for sure.
I know God is able to do abundantly and above what I can ask him.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, this was good. And I'm going to stay tuned. So anything else, Nay, that you want to share with the Pivot audience before we go?
Now, I'm just going to say, make it your business to get to Pittsburgh on October 5th. These women are changing lives with what they are bringing to the table through script, but also what they're applying to their character just from their own genuine essence. You don't want to miss this show.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, this show was power-packed, and I want to thank you, Pivot audience, Pivot family, for tuning in. We are so grateful to have Nay Stubbs, who is the writer-director and has the vision of what this will be and where it's going. We thank the cast, and I want to make sure I get that right. Light, the Flow Minista, who is here and very instrumental in the music. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. Get your tickets. You can go on Facebook and check out godSis, the Play Stage. It has its own page. Is that right, Nay?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can definitely check it out. Get the information on how you can buy the tickets. We want to see your face in the place, not just to be there, but to be there so that you too can be free and spread this goodness to other women who need to understand the importance of freedom and empowerment. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you so much
for
having us.